The truth that we must realize is the truth related to the Four Noble Truths, the Four Noble Truths. They are, 1. The truth about suffering, truth of suffering, 2. The truth about the origin of suffering, truth of origin, 3. The truth about the cessation of suffering, truth of cessation, and, 4. The truth about the path leading to the cessation of suffering, the Noble Truth. The truth about suffering is related to the nature of the five aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness. According to the Zhuan Phelan Sutra, we must thoroughly understand this suffering to understand it correctly. It is necessary to note seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching and thinking as they arise in order to understand them accurately. If we do not note it right at that time, we will not fully understand the nature of their birth and death, and from there, our attachment to these illusory psychophysical phenomena will be born, and that is the origin of suffering. Because there is attachment to those phenomena will occur, and karma will be created. It is these karmic actions that will create rebirth, and from there continue the cycle of suffering of old age, sickness, death, etc. If we continuously note the actions of seeing, hearing, smell, etc., these psychophysical phenomena will be properly understood, and thereby craving will be reduced to a certain extent. This is the practice to eliminate the origin of suffering. When we completely and promptly note each impact of seeing, hearing, smelling, etc. when they first appear, then it can be considered that we have completed the work of eliminating the source of suffering, according to, as in the spirit of the teachings in the Zhuan Phelan Sutra. Each act of noting like this will help reduce afflictions, which means reducing the conditions for rebirth. Thus, through the method of noting, suffering is eliminated moment by moment. And this practice is the worldly path to develop wisdom. This is the practice according to the teachings in the sutras that the cessation of suffering needs to be realized, and the path to the cessation of suffering needs to be developed. The Master will teach more about the supramundane path to cessation of suffering, to realize nirvana, and the Noble Eightfold Path. However, first of all, I will explain the realization of nirvana through the worldly path as the Buddha taught to the monk Malyakyaputta Sutra, as follows: Nirvana is far away when there is no mindfulness, seeing form, thoughts are intoxicated, paying attention to the form of craving, mind is attached to feeling. Attachment to form resides. In that person, feeling increases, many types, from form arises, desire and harm the mind, brain harms the mind. Thus, accumulated suffering is called, far from nirvana, meaning, as soon as the eyes see a form, if we forget to contemplate the seeing, and if it is a beautiful object, we will take pleasure in it and attachment will arise, especially for an object that we always love. Once there is attachment, feelings about the object immediately arise. If it is a desirable object, we will feel pleasure, then give birth to attachment. If it is an evil object, painful feelings arise, followed by anger and hatred. It is this attachment or hatred that causes the mind to become agitated and lose mindfulness. From there it will lead to suffering, creating karma, leading to rebirth in the cycle of samsara. Thus, we move further and further away from nirvana. Nirvana is near when there is mindfulness. He is not greedy for form, seeing form, not attached to feelings, his mind is not attached to feelings, not attached to form, residing. According to form, he sees, depending on form, feels sensations, consumes, does not accumulate, thus, practicing mindfulness, thus, suffering is not contained, it is called, close to nirvana. Now, if we are mindful while looking, the Buddha called that time, we are close to nirvana. At the very moment we look, if we meditate on looking, attachment to the object will not arise. That's right. Every time there is seeing, if we note seeing continuously, attachment to the object of seeing will not arise and there will also be no thoughts about that attachment. When we fully understand the birth and death nature of seeing and the object of seeing, we will have no accompanying liking or disliking. Therefore, when we have mindfulness and awareness, our mind will not be entangled in greed and anger. At that time we only have a passive feeling, which means just a feeling without any reaction or emotion accompanying it. The shape of the object is just perceived without becoming an object of attachment. Thanks to mindfulness, we simply note all phenomena with a passive feeling, and therefore, afflictions do not have a chance to arise and will be eliminated. This means that if we are not mindful as soon as we look, attachment to the object of seeing will arise and afflictions will certainly continue to recur endlessly. On the contrary, if we are mindful, afflictions will be eliminated. Disappears because it has no conditions to arise. Therefore, if anyone wants to escape suffering and realize happiness, he or she must always be mindful when the act of seeing occurs. The effort to develop this wisdom through meditation is called the first path. The initial path, Pababhaga Maganga. Through this initial path, practitioners reach the goal of realizing nirvana, extinguishing all afflictions, through the realization of the supramundane path. In the Malyakyaputta Sutra, the Buddha taught that to escape suffering, a monk must practice meditation as above, and when he knows the true nature of all psychophysical phenomena in the world, he is considered as approaching nirvana. Why? If we practice meditation, insight will increasingly develop, and one day, we will have enough good conditions to realize nirvana through path and fruition wisdom, Magga Nyana and Phala Nyana. If a practitioner attains path and fruition wisdom for the first time, he becomes a stream winner or sotapanna and will never be reborn in the four miserable realms, Asura, hungry ghosts, beasts, and hell. He can only be reborn a maximum of 7 times, in the realm of the human or heavenly realms, and will ultimately attain arahantship, completely liberated from the saha world and the afflictions of samsara of birth. Old age, illness, death, above the path of stream entry is the path of once-returner, Siddhaham, Sakadagami. It is called once-returner because he only has to go through 2 more lives, this life and the next, to be able to attain arahantship and ultimate liberation. Above the path of once-returning is the path of non-returning, Ahaham, Anagami. The non-returner will not be reborn in the human world or the sensual world, but will be reborn in the Brahma worlds. There, he will attain arahantship, as just mentioned, when you practice meditation to note all phenomena as they arise, and with the process of developing wisdom, when the blessings ripen, you will become an Arahant. When the force of karma is exhausted, he will attain parinirvana, nirvana without residual robes, and at that time there will be a complete extinguishment of all suffering. Therefore, to extinguish all afflictions and suffering when this life ends, you need to make every effort to practice meditation to thoroughly note all phenomena as they arise. At least, please make every effort to achieve the path and fruition of stream winning so that you will no longer be reborn in miserable states. What I have said regarding seeing also applies to the meditation practice of hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. If we do not have mindfulness, we are still far from nirvana. If we are mindful, we are close to nirvana. Thus, we need to apply meditation to every action in our lives. Summary of mindfulness meditation practice. Bhikkhu Malyakyaputta, regarding the dharmas that are seen, heard, smelled, tasted, touched, and conscious, you should only see with visible things, hear only with things can hear, only smell with things that can be smelled, only taste with things that can be tasted, only be conscious of things that can be sensed. Therefore, the teacher has no attachment. Because there is no attachment, there is no longer life this, the next life, and between those 2 lives. This is the end of suffering, that is the Buddha's brief teaching to the monk Malyakyaputta. After listening to the Buddha's teachings, the monk Malyakyaputta told him that he understood that if a person does not have mindfulness at the moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, or thinking, that person will be in danger, suffering and far from nirvana. On the contrary, if that person has mindfulness, he or she will be freed from suffering and near nirvana. The Buddha confirmed that with the verses mentioned above. Next, the monk Malyakyaputta went to live in seclusion, diligently practicing meditation and contemplation on seeing, hearing, smelling, etc. as soon as they arose, and soon he attained arahantship. Han, therefore, if you want to attain the paths of sotapanna, once-returner, etc., please meditate continuously on seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking as soon as they are born. Start. If you practice like this and your concentration is strong enough, you will develop wisdom to directly perceive the difference between name and form, cause and effect, the characteristics of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. That is the correct method of practice according to the saying, Samadhito yathabhutam pajanati, meaning, right concentration leads to right view. Right view in meditation, when your concentration is strong enough. In each movement of recording vision, you will be able to distinguish the object of seeing, the eyes, and the seeing. The object of seeing and the eyes are matter or form, without consciousness. Eye consciousness and recognition belong to the mind or name, which has consciousness. Thus, in each movement of noting and seeing, you will realize that this is just body and mind, or name and form, without any self or soul. This is the wisdom of discrimination of name and form, nama rupa pariketa nayana. Likewise, when you meditate on hearing, you will know that the ear and sound are matter, and that ear consciousness and recognition are mind. Thus, there are only name and form, when you meditate on smell. You will know that the nose and scent are matter, and consciousness and recognition are mind. Thus, there are only name and form, when you meditate on taste, you will know that the tongue and the taste are matter, and that the sense of consciousness along with the noting is the mind. Thus, there are only name and form, when you note walking, standing, sitting, lying down, touching, going up, down, etc., you will know that the body and tactile objects are matter, and that the body consciousness with awareness is the mind. Thus, there are only name and form, when you take note of thinking, etc., you will know that the mind and the object of the mind are matter, and that consciousness and the noting are the mind. Thus, there are only name and form. In this case, the object of the mind can be a thought, idea, concept, analysis, etc. that can be evaluated and listed, so it is called matter, form, rupa, in the mind. Relative meaning, normally, the wisdom of discrimination of name and form happens more to an intelligent practitioner. However, even if one is less intelligent, a practitioner can still develop some level of this wisdom. After developing this wisdom, the practitioner continues to practice meditation and with the development of concentration. The practitioner can attain the wisdom of discriminating cause and effect through the following way. While noting walking, the practitioner knows that every time there is an intention to go, there will be an impact of going. When standing or sitting, it is the same, because there is an intention to sit, there is the action of sitting, because there is an intention to stand, there is an action of standing. When noting rising and falling, the practitioner realizes that because there is breathing in and out, there is rising and falling. When noting seeing, the practitioner knows that because there is a scene of seeing, there is seeing, and because there are eyes, there is seeing. When hearing, smelling, tasting, etc., it's the same. Gradually, when noting and understanding like that, the practitioner will realize that these movements are not due to the initiative of any ego, but are only the result of the relationships of cause and effect. Results as just described. This is the wisdom of discriminating cause and effect. Next, when noting, walking, standing, sitting, lying down, rising, falling, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, stiffness, numbness, pain, sadness, happiness, etc. In each action, the practitioner will see both the object noted and the recognition arise anew and then wither away. Initially, the practitioner only notes the first and last stages of each stage, such as the bulging of the abdomen. Gradually, with the increase of concentration and wisdom, the practitioner will note smaller segments. Through direct knowledge, the practitioner understands that all these events are neither permanent nor pleasurable, they are only afflictions. Life is just a series of phenomena, without a self or a spirit, any soul. This is the maturation of true insight, called insight into impermanence, anakanyapasana nayana, insight into suffering, dukkhanupasana nayana, and insight into non-self, anatanyapasana nayana. With the maturation of the insights, nirvana is realized through the noble path wisdom, arya magga nayana, and the noble fruition wisdom, arya phala nayana. At that time, the practitioner becomes a stream winner and is no longer reborn in the four suffering realms. He will be reborn under good conditions in the human or heavenly realms, and in 7 lifetimes will realize ultimate nirvana through arahantship. Therefore, it is necessary that each of us must make an effort to practice meditation to at least achieve the first fruit of stream winning. Here, the monk will guide you to practice meditation for a short time. Please sit firmly, in an appropriate and comfortable position. Close your eyes. Pay attention to your abdomen, and note the rising and falling movements of your abdomen. If you don't see it clearly, you can place your hand on your abdomen to easily monitor. Note the rising movement, from the beginning to the end, diligently. Watch the falling movement in the same way. Just note it silently in your mind. While noting like that, if there is a wandering mind, note distracting mind, then bring the mind back to the rising and falling of the abdomen. If the ear hears a sound, note hearing, hearing, hearing 2 times. Or 3 times, then return your attention to the movements of the abdomen. If there is pain, note pain, pain, pain 2 or 3 times. Then return your attention to the movements of the abdomen. Please continue noting like this for 5 minutes. Conclude. Now, we have been practicing meditation for 5 minutes. In every minute, we do 50 to 60 virtuous actions through recognition. In 5 minutes, we can perform at least 250 such actions. In each noting, the effort of attention is right effort. Clear awareness when noting is mindfulness. Continuously focusing on the object of meditation is right concentration. These 3 factors make up concentration, samadhi. With such effort in meditation, concentration increases, and we will have right view in each act of noting. The intention to bring the mind to the object of meditation is right thought. These 2 factors make up the wisdom part, panna. The 3 branches of right speech, right action, and right livelihood are developed during meditation, forming the precepts, sila. That is the 3 learnings of precepts concentration wisdom. Every time we practice the vipassana meditation method of monitoring and noting the rising and falling of the abdomen, we practice the Noble Eightfold Path. This is the middle way discovered by Bodhisattva Siddhartha to attain enlightenment. This middle way helps develop wisdom and leads to path wisdom and fruition wisdom. Therefore, I sincerely advise you to try your best to practice meditation even when you return home and live with your family. I hope that through this practice you will make much progress in developing your concentration, and in the near future you will realize nirvana through path wisdom and fruition wisdom.
Thank you for spending your valuable time on my channel journey to enlightenment. Wishing you a very peaceful and happy day. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to my support channel. See you in the next video.